More telling, the letter stated that because there was no means of totally eradicating bacteria from fresh produce, no kill step in the parlance, an outreach effort would be needed to make clear to consumers that any intervention steps the industry undertook were intended to only minimize risk to the extent possible. In other words, there would no longer be even the implicit guarantees that fresh produce was safe from contamination. Corporate candor of this kind is generally either accidental or purely tactical, and clearly food retailers have been trying to push as much responsibility for foodborne illnesses and contamination onto their suppliers as they possibly can, just as retailers have always done with costs they do not wish to pay. Yet the letter also underlines the powerlessness felt by both the food companies and the agencies that regulate them. The safety problem was moving beyond the industry's capacity to manage or even fully understand. It took Taco Bell weeks before it realized the pathogen had entered the food chain on lettuce, not green onions. And even after 6 months of study, federal and state investigators admitted that no definitive determination could be made as to how E. coli 0157H7 had gotten into the spinach. Public confidence had fallen so low that when FDA Commissioner Andrew von Eschenbach tried to argue that the melamine pet food scandal has demonstrated our effectiveness at detecting and containing a problem, he was roundly ridiculed by critics who noted, among other things, that of the 300 million tons of food imported into the United States each year, roughly a seventh of the nation's food supply, government inspectors are able to examine less than 2% of it. After decades of hearing that our food system is the best, it almost seemed as if a curtain had been drawn back and we'd been allowed a glimpse of the shadowy structures behind the food system, the huge networks of production and distribution and retailing that convey millions of tons of food to the hundreds of millions of consumers, only to find those structures broken or derailed. As successive food safety stories began to blur into a single narrative of incompetence and uncertainty, as admissions and equivocations poured forth from investigators, policymakers, and industry executives, the impression grew stronger that these enormous food companies and powerful agencies were conceding not only that the modern food system was in trouble, but also that there was little they or anyone else could do about it. For the first time, we were acknowledging the widening gap between the modern food economy and the billions of people it was ostensibly built to serve. This is not the food narrative that most of us grew up with. Until late in the 20th century, the modern food system was celebrated as a monument to humanity's greatest triumph. We were producing more food, more grain, more meat, more fruits and vegetables than ever before, more cheaply than ever before, and with a degree of variety, safety, quality, and convenience that preceding generations would have found bewildering. Critics and malcontents might complain about farm chemicals or exploited migrant workers, or certainly the blandness of much of our processed food, but for the rest of a grateful world, these were trivial costs to pay for a superabundance that had liberated humankind from a long night of hunger and drudgery. Today it's becoming ever more obvious that our triumph was never complete. The same supply chains that undergird our global supermarket, making fresh produce and meat available in every hemisphere and every season, have also created perfect opportunities for both familiar foodborne pathogens, such as E. coli and Salmonella, as well as emerging varieties, such as avian flu, the rapidly mutating virus that may well be the basis of the next global pandemic. And for all our miraculous productivity, nearly 1 billion people, 1 in 7, remain food insecure, to use Washington's sanitized term, and their ranks swell by about 7.5 million a year. Where hunger has been banished, populations now struggle with the less desirable consequences of the modern diet, such as obesity, heart disease, and diabetes. Worse, many of the same methods that unleashed such abundance, such as large-scale livestock operations and chemically intensive farming, have so degraded the productive capacities of our natural systems that it's not clear how we'll feed